everybody, my name is Kayra Martinez. I'm the founder and director of Love Without Borders for Refugees in Need. We are here in our gallery today in Kypseli in Athens, exhibit from around the world. There's about 10 different countries and we sell their art and give 100% back to them.
Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you again.
Yes.
Kayra Martinez,
Yeah.
Love Without Borders Art Gallery.
Yeah, in Athens, in Greece.
Yes, in Athens, Greece.
We are here now, and it's a beautiful new exhibition. Congratulations with all the participants coming from many nations, right?
Our exhibitions usually have up to 40 people involved, sometimes from 10 different countries.
10 different.
We're supporting refugees from the Middle East and Africa, and also local artists that are from Greece.
And it's so nice because we just talked about when I came here that you want to show that every person has something to express and not necessarily only the suffering they're being through, but of course it comes from the expression sometimes, but to see the artist.
Our project has changed and evolved in so many different ways, as you can imagine, the last 10 years.
Yeah.
But what we have learned is that we really want to not talk about definitely it's important to talk about the situation, the conditions the refugees are living in, but we also want to change the narrative and share with the people around the world about the artists themselves, more on a personal level, and what these artists are capable of, their talents. Many of them speak many languages, and it's just a wonderful community I'm very fortunate to be a part of.
When you hear about refugees, especially, it's where they're coming from is the conflict zones, who are doing the warfare, who is the victim, but then again the person is forgotten. And what you're trying to do now is to change that narrative to the person's path.
Yes, we want their voice to be heard, and it's the best way through art. It really resonates throughout the world. We've been fortunate to speak at 164 events on 4 continents.
Wow.
Since 2016.
Yeah. Impressive.
So
in US you bring your paintings with you because you're a flight attendant, right?
Yes.
That's a fortunate way to travel with art.
Absolutely. I am probably the only one that does this kind of job, but
what an idea. You just found out to do that yourself, that I'm a flight attendant so I will do this.
No, it was much more than that. It took about 10 years of really hard work. Working in the refugee camps, which made me try to figure out what I could do in a very simplistic way to support children. And I brought paper and crayons into a tent one day, and now you can say it sort of went global. And
well, that's how it started.
Yes.
That's also very, you get this intimate relation immediately, and then you see that, oh wow, these people don't have a platform. And you made that platform, which is so cool because nowadays all the platforms, like I just talked to you about, is driven by the white male, let's say, in the world has the world agenda, but also the dialogue and the conversation. What you're doing is the polar opposite. You have a new platform, it's physical and it's expressive from the individuals, not from political macro perspective, when they're not top down, they're from themselves. And what do the refugees themselves or the artists say about this? What do they say to you?
Well, many, first of all, have never painted before. It just makes the story so much better because ultimately they come to me here and to my colleague Ahmed from Syria, and they ask us for a home and for food. Many of them are on the streets. For us, we want to be able to give them support straight away, but since a lot of the funding has been lost throughout the years, then our best answer is art. We have a beautiful gallery here in Kypseli. We let them paint. People, humans, just have a talent to paint. Some have a bigger talent, but everybody has a story.
Story, yes.
And so they're painting their story on canvas, part of their journey to get here. At the end result, we have hundreds and thousands of paintings that have come through our gallery. And what we do is we get a one-page bio for the adults and a small card for the children, give a little bit of information about the people so that the reader can understand who actually is painting this. And then when we sell it, we're giving the money back to that artist so that they can pay their own rent, buy their own food, and get their feet on the ground. We've managed to get dozens of single men out of the refugee camps where they're paying their own rent, and all I have to do is sell their art, which is for me very easy.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, nice.
And with the mothers and children, this is a little bit more work.
You give them an opportunity they might not had before.
Right. Because the fact is that the women are a little bit more, they have to take care of the children, because I would say 99% of the women that we're supporting have children. Art has been a wonderful opportunity, as you said, because they now have a way to buy food and to
it's a liberating project also. They can build their own way. They're doing something similar in Africa, which was a project I supported once called Monkey Biz, where the women were doing beading and they made some animals figures from their home where they could also still take care of their children, and they didn't have to leave their home and be afraid of being taken by shooters or whatever that was out there. And that's like, of course, a different world than here, but still the same, that to start somewhere, art is a very good start.
Yes, and we've had hundreds of wonderful stories that just confirm how important art is. I've been very fortunate to give a TEDx talk in Grand Junction on the power of art.
When did you do that?
I did it it was the last one before the world shut down. It was in Grand Junction, 2019, I believe.
Oh, lucky one. So the TEDx we can find on YouTube?
Yes.
Or something. You have to send me the URL and I will give it in the caption.
Okay, perfect.
So they can watch more about your path, your story, and your travel to this project and this place. And it's not ending here, as I can understand. This goes out of Athens, it goes further, and you're also taking your art to US and other internationals, Norwegians that you said participating with paintings. There's one behind me, isn't it? From a Norwegian artist.
Yes. So International Women's Exhibition, and I made a post on Facebook, made a piece of art.
Yeah.
And there was a lovely Norwegian woman named Maren, and I had worked with her and met her in Lesbos many years ago. As we were volunteering there, and she read the post, went to her friends, and they made a beautiful crate and put 9 or 10 paintings, I think we have, and shipped them to Athens. They are all donations from beautiful human beings, from artists, that are, when they're sold, the money will go to cover for these other women that are displaced here in Greece.
Yeah, nice. So that also means this is collaborative, that everyone coming that can participate with art or with money that you buy an art piece, it goes back to this community that you created, which means you can create a women's community, and they're also, the artists are supporting each other, and then it becomes this connection, this communication between cultures, and then more artists might eye this project, and you can also expand the collaboration. And that's very cool. Do you see also other paths coming in?
Yes, so we've had a women's international exhibition for a couple of months. We've done one for men, and we've done one for children. The children's one is just ending. Next month we're going to have an animal exhibition to bring more awareness about animal awareness here in Greece. That's really important and not talked about because we're so busy with the humans.
Yeah.
But very important, naturally, to be inclusive with everything that we're doing and invite the local Greeks to join us. And so we are really fortunate that we have this beautiful space.
Yeah.
We have several men from Greece that are down on their luck. They don't have enough to pay their rent, and they come into the gallery from time to time. One came in today, and we're able to buy their paintings so that they have enough to pay for their rent. So it's not just about the refugee or about this, it's about humans. We're open to helping all humans, and we're just trying to create this beautiful movement of bringing everybody into our community.
And being heard, like you said, you talked to me a little bit because we've just been through the American election and we see the result of that, where you are making visible expressions from within, from persons that might have a say, but they don't have a say in the official, in the world, but they have it now. They have an opportunity to come in and also speak about issues. You talked about now animals in Greece, which is not about refugees, but it's about a different issue. And they also have an opinion of course, everyone knows that what's going on, dog or cat is left outside, and everyone can see it, even if you're a refugee or not. What's happening in the world, and we want to say this is right or this is wrong.
They were not so confident about their art because they had no background. But once I started taking it around to different countries, and then I would send them back the picture of the person that purchased it, and then the smile from ear to ear, and they were valued as a human being.
Yes.
And I think that's what stuck with me. This is successful because it's not about the money. Yes, it is about him being able to pay his rent, to be empowered and to be independent, but valued as a human being is a very difficult thing to acquire.
Yeah. When you're in a crisis or whatever, you think of survival as the first step, but also we are humans and we have a place here on earth. Maybe some people, they feel that they dream from their children, they want to become a doctor or they want to become an artist or they want to go to school because they have dreams. Everyone has dreams. And now you're saying that you're seeing that through their eyes, now the dream, they can do this. And yeah, we are underestimating it, I think, in the world, to listen to other minority groups, but women in particular, children, what do they think want to change, or for themselves. Yeah. Originally, I was going to speak with another American who is not here today, or has nothing with this project, but she was frustrated of the American election result. She is from a red state, but a blue voter. She was very disappointed of fellow Americans and wanted to express to me the direction that America is going and the rest of the world. However, she felt a bit silenced by her family or by the neighbors or the state or the workplace, I don't know, which is very red. And then I felt a bit backlash to older times or other, not democracies, but places where you have to suppress your voice because you're afraid of whoever patriarch is telling you not to speak or not to say anything. That's a very, I think, dangerous direction if the West or the civilized world or the East or wherever, where we feel that we should have been there, we should have had democracy now, and we still aren't. We aren't totally treating people equally, or we are maybe suppressing ourselves, but it's also fear of the other, because people have been telling you not to be yourself or not to express yourself. And maybe now I think the time is to do the opposite of the fear. Like I told you when we were sitting here, maybe it's time to be expressive and extra resistant. And like you are also having this resistance group that I heard about. Good and brave, courageous.
Yes, I think on the day of the election, many of us didn't even, I had to turn my phone off. That's the first time I've turned my phone off in 10 years. I couldn't speak to anybody, I couldn't eat, and I think that's the only silence you're going to see.
That's good. I hope it just lasts for a little second.
Yes, it did take everybody a bit of time, but we started to speak on social media, several of us, and people were, we all decided as a group that, you know, we don't have to accept. And what is it actually that we want to do? And what is it exactly that we want to see in our country? We know very well what we want to see and do, but we have to be very careful because now this decision that was made by the American public has really given the opportunity for people to be really belligerent to other human beings, as we've already seen. And we have to gather as groups. And so, yes, I'm not going to give out too much information, but we are on some secure platforms.
Yeah, that's good.
Definitely not Facebook.
No.
And,
not the usual ones.
no. And we're talking about what we are going to do when things start to happen. We haven't seen too much yet, but we're getting to, you know, organizing and standing up for people that are less able to speak and have a voice, and also to continue to call into our senators right now and to continue to stand up for things that we believe in. Because,
democracy. Yeah. And like we forgot to say, you're from Colorado. And you probably know a lot of groups of cultures in America as well as here, because in US I think it's a multiculturalism. They're all immigrants, you know, that's how America. It's such an ironical everything, because I'm native and I have Native American relatives, and they're all saying the same, that the coming president is not listening to them. And that their voices never been heard, or they don't care about what they're going to say. So they have to organize. Like you said too, everyone I think that already felt suppressed and will definitely feel more suppressed in the time coming. They have to get together to get platforms. How to, you know, even if it's big or small, their local issues, or it's good that you don't let that down, that you go on and you do some proactive, it's like prepping, you know, for whatever comes. And maybe you are seeing more because you are American, so you know what to expect for the coming year. Like I'm European, so I just see this as a bit chaotic. Like I don't exactly know what's gonna happen, but I know that it's definitely not everything good. Yeah,
we've already seen, for instance, a senator-elect in Missouri, which is the state where I'm registered now, and he started to put out $1,000 reward for anybody that knew where an illegal citizen was, a legal person, immigrant was, and report. So this brings us back to the 1940s, right?
Yeah, yes.
And so these are the things that we have to figure out.
Before we were always discussing how could someone make so many people think the same about Jews. Well, it's dangerous if we're ignorant and if we don't step up to our previous history and learn from it. Because I think also what you're doing is you're creating a learning platform that people can discuss and might not be an answer at all, but here in Europe we have more experience with this. All the internal wars in Europe has been always we have overcome it somehow. So in that sense, yes, Europe is democratic, but we're still not there where we still have to remind ourselves to be resistant again, because we also have, of course, far-right groups and really radical groups and neo-Nazis and everything. So it's dangerous all over the world.
Absolutely, very dangerous.
Now, to talk about the bright side of the gallery and the project, can you see that people are getting more hopeful for 2025 and onwards?
I surely am.
Yeah?
Yes. We have started in such a very simple situation, working in a tent in a refugee camp with crayons and papers. And now this is what we have. Okay, yes, it's been 10 years of really intensive work, but what we're seeing now is over 100 students coming to visit and volunteer with us every single year. About 5 to 7 schools annually. And they're volunteering with us, but it's a very different program because what we're doing is we're putting students and the refugees together, and we're all, as humans, we're eating, we're playing music, we're creating art. So but they've never been with a refugee, or they don't know their stories, and so we're educating by living, by being together. But we've just created this really beautiful program with the students in the schools that's just growing and growing every year. And so that gives me a lot of hope, because all of these students, that after they spend 10 days or 5 weeks with us, they go back to their parents. And when I met their parents were just giving me hugs and saying, "Thank you so much. My child is never going to be the same again." And
become a humanitarian, really. And also they go back to their university, I guess, with more knowledge, and they can educate the program that they're in, right?
Yes, and they're very empathetic as well. And that's lacking in today's society, as you know.
In the institutions. But which kind of programs are you involved in the Greek schools?
Right now we're working mostly with American, French, and some German. One of the schools from the US is actually medical. Okay. And the French one is engineering.
All right.
And so the engineering students are working with us upstairs on renovating the gallery, which is now finished. I know you don't see this in the textbooks, you know.
No, exactly. It's a different learning. And it's also like you never know what can be the outcome. Sometimes a new popping project comes up, like between the collaborators and maybe in the schools, so maybe they get new ideas. And like you said, engineering, that's very interesting, because they might be interested in housing projects for people who are with less benefits, for instance, or maybe they want to develop something new, innovative for people with lower incomes, or living together, or things like that.
We have gone to the mayor in Athens to talk about getting some of these empty buildings open so that we could renovate together with the Greeks and the refugees for safer living for both communities. But obviously funding is a big part that needs to be addressed, and there is massive amounts of funding going to the Greek government. So we're hoping that there's a little bit more accountability this year. Together we have spent about 9.5 million on housing since 2016, whereas there's already millions of euros already earmarked for housing. So you can see there's a big problem there.
Help organizations, they help with the crisis, which is, if something breaks out, a war, or if a big hunger, they can collect lots of money. But this is an ongoing, everyday project, which is what they basically need to get by. What you said, the quality of life is every day. It's not only when there's a crisis. Where we're heading might be that many also European states has to realize that development is from within. It's not something that always, if you sell your country to another, or if you're giving away power, you will never gain it. So it's like when we in Norway took us quite many decades as well to get to we're not perfect, because we're still having a lot of conflicting issues, and also many right wings that takes over a lot now politically, but it's still that working class movement that took many decades before we got the social democracy. It took quite a while in fighting, and women were the ones changing it. Because it wasn't just the working class, it was the women of the working class. You see that in Africa as well, and everywhere where women get power, it's getting more development. That's like science. It's like, that's what they're saying, even professors are saying that. But you are a family leader of this project, plus a lot of women have been empowered through you with their art, and then men comes. Because that's like, when you empower women, also men get lifted, and children.
We want to empower everybody. Everybody deserves a right?
Yeah. And maybe that's also very healthy for Americans to know what's happening outside of US.
Only reason many of these places know about the refugee crisis is because I'm standing right in front of their community, talking to them about the refugee crisis in Greece. They didn't even know it was still happening. organization, and we're registered as a 501c3 in the US.
Yeah.
And we're registered as a nonprofit here in Greece.
Oh yeah, so they can choose if they're American or European.
Yes.
And they give to each.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's very nice, because sometimes people also just want to donate money if they don't know where to visit, or you might have some galleries online. Sometimes they can buy art online.
Yeah, and artists are able to donate art, which is also helpful to us too.
Yeah, sure. About that, I have an art piece to you, which is the art called Dream of a Country, which I painted in January last year for the podcast. I was going to give it to someone who wanted to give to, first of all, that was Doctors Without Borders, the charities I believe in, and that do a lot of great field work with doctors. On the other hand, that art piece fits so well with this concept because of the title Dream of a Country. It can be abstract, it can also be inside you, it can also be a country that you used to know, or a country you're dreaming of to become. So you can make whatever you want out of it, like what you see it in yourself. So it's not a special country, it can be any country. So this is a painting which is abstract. It's a tree that has been burnt. So it's also a little climate aspect in it. That was a part of the story, is that we are also in a climate crisis in the world, where a lot of country borders are also affected by climate change. Mm-hmm. So that's also the philosophy there, that what happens if we don't take care of the climate? How can we then talk about borders that we used to have? Because then we are self-destructing what we built, which is secure countries, you know. And also the tree, that is the tree of life, if you burn that trunk, it just becomes a dream. You know, you're traveling in your mind, but you might have some idea of what country means to you. And sometimes I think a country isn't always what the national says the country is. Sometimes it's what you relate to your country. Mm-hmm. And like I have the same with Norway. It's like I have my own picture of what that country is to me. To me, it's nature. And in the US, every state is different. Mm-hmm. When I lived in New York City, you know, I felt very white. When I'm here, I feel I'm missing the Afro-American, because I was living among Afro-Americans. I was also in Thanksgiving at a very Afro-American family in Bronx that invited me to the big turkey. Mm-hmm. And it was such an experience, because, you know, she had this turban on, which was only here. And she looked like the big mama in the kitchen with, you know, she was cooking, and it was great food. And I listened to music and raps, and they were singing, and the children running around. It was just, to me, very cultural. And yeah, I was the white visitor. And when I came there, I felt very like I have to be humble. This is a different culture than mine. And yeah, I learned a lot, and was very inviting, very enriching. And then I came back to Fifth Avenue to New York City. It's a different world. And I went to jazz bars to listen to where Miles Davis was playing, because I play music, so I went to.
That's right.
Also a lot of Afros, but it was so cool with the jazz musicians. Were 6-man bands, you know. It was a Small's Club where the famous musicians went back in the days. And I felt I was in the beginning of US, where America started, you know, when they played blues and they played jazz, and that's US to me.
Oh, okay.
Because you get to the root of things. Mm-hmm. I think every country has their root, and they're wandering a little bit away from it. You have this here, a project where people can stay true to themselves, right? I think it's very important these days.
Absolutely, authenticity.
Yeah.